June. And so this does not necessarily represent the numbers that counselors are actually putting students in based on their WIDA scores during the summertime. So this will obviously increase as we go through the summer.
I believe we did science.
Science, we did English. So no increase in English. You'll note practical English had one student request, so we're not running that.
It's not practical. Sorry. She said it's not practical.
Very nice, very nice.
Once we reach 9 o'clock, we
But it's
go.
been dropping. Practical.
Practical English, yes, has
Keep talking.
been dropping.
We should sit us together. Have you seen us?
I told
Media
you.
Production 1 and 2, this is a combined course. This is Mr. Friedman's course. And our Humanities Honors English pairs with our Humanities Honors Social Studies. And again, that's a very popular course. Those are incoming 9th graders, or no, that's for 9th grade. English A, B, C, and D are special ed courses. The alternates are not high until you get down here to the senior electives. Creative writing is 71 alternates, so public speaking as well, 59 alternates. So no increase in English. Any questions on English? Next is world language. So world language, we have a teacher this year who's teaching a 6th section, and she is going to be teaching a 6th section again, that is in Latin. As you can see, our Latin numbers did increase. We're a bit of a quandary here. We originally had 4 Latin 1 sections. So 4 and 2 is 6. And then if you have 1 each, that's 7, 8. That'd be 8 sections for Latin. So we combine Latin 3 and 4 like we do normally every year. And at this point, this is unfortunate. At this point, we have to run it because we're not going to find, to Dr. Bolton's point, a .2 teacher to make this 4 sections. And down here, this little math here for everybody. We have 2 French teachers. We have 1.6 German teachers. So 2 teachers travel down to the middle school. We have 1 Latin teacher. We have 6.4 Spanish. And obviously there's some Spanish teachers that we do have traveling to the middle school as well. So any questions about world language? So business we did, art we did, health and phys ed. We are next. So with health and phys ed, just to note, anatomy and physiology is of course at the top. Again, that pairs with the science. And at this point, 3 sections are going to go to the phys ed teacher, Mr. Wyatt, or should I say Dr. Wyatt now. Our wellness course, this is the 9th graders, the incoming 9th graders. And then we obviously have our 10th grade health and aquatics. Aquatics should be below 25. You can't go any higher for safety issues. These are our new courses. So last year these were new. In years past we used to have grade 11, we used to have 11, 12 PE, and very large class sizes. And so they went semester-based. So these are semester-based courses. Students need 2 credits to graduate, need 2 credits of PE to graduate. There are many students, the junior class, the current junior class now, there are quite a few students who have finished it because they doubled up this year. So the semester courses give them the ability and the flexibility in their schedule to double. And so many of them did that, which opens up their senior year for more electives and more options, maybe for co-op perhaps, which I think is a great thing. Lisa Wagner in the phys ed department, the department coordinators worked hard over the last couple of years. And also that goes into account the physics. The physics labs were taken away. I'm sorry, Dr. Yarnell. The physics lab has taken effect. So those were embedded in the 6-day cycle. So now they can pair up much easily with the, and students in 10th grade, it's like driving down a 3-lane highway. The students are really getting their courses that they want. There's a lot of flexibility in the 10th grade schedules because of that. So, and this is cyber, is that here. So are there any questions at all with,
This is an opportunity to highlight, if you just scroll down a little bit so you can see the current versus the proposed. We're going down a section. If you remember, as part of my personnel recommendations, I asked that over the next 2 years we consider in the departments that are K through 12, providing an extra class period for the department coordinators so that they can facilitate at all 3 levels as well as do curriculum work district-wide. Currently, Ms. Wagner, who is the one who was in health and phys ed, has a very difficult time with middle school and elementary school just because she's working full-time. And curriculum work is done outside and is funded in the summer and paid extra. So this is a department, there are 3 of them that we're talking about. Art, when we go back and look at that page, we're going to see whether there's someone who's willing to do a 6th section to be able to accommodate that, and if not, we won't be able to do it this year. Phys ed was a place that because of sections and numbers, we were able to create an extra period, and so it won't be extra money to do it in health and PE, and so we can still give the students what they want and provide that from a standpoint there. The other one is music, and we're still looking at music because the music coordinator is a middle school teacher. And so we have to see whether the schedule allows us flexibility at the elementary and middle school to be able to provide that, and those numbers have not been finalized yet. The middle school is always a little behind because those students program plan a little later, and so us being able to put those schedules together. So at least in 2 of the 3 departments, we have a real possibility. We'll have to see from a music standpoint, so I'm excited by that in terms of the opportunities to be able to use those teachers over the summer and next year.
discuss tech ed? Discuss music, and I believe that.
All right.
That's it. Thank you, everybody.
That is
3 hours.
If we didn't eliminate
a lot.
one extra period in wellness,
Good.
then you would have had an extra to kind of cut down on
I might need that later.
Three kids per section.
Okay.
It shows up
Here's
both
mine.
places from the staff. Are there any other questions for Mr. Luboski?
Thank you for that.
Transportation?
Yeah, no, that's, yeah, that's. Because if you look at it, it's
All right, good.
Mr. Luboski, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right, that's a
Yes,
lot of hard
thank
work in 30 minutes, so.
Ms. Dickinson, do you want this now?
All right.
I wonder if the social studies though, if we had the kids pick alternates so that, because most of them are gonna take their social studies AP classes. They're gonna take one their freshman year, one their, they're probably gonna take one each year if they're a big social studies person.
I'll stay on task. I'll read cut sheets.
Right, they're gonna call you and say, here's what we
I
can
just
do.
think that might at least drop those social studies numbers, because I feel like they're always
Those
like
numbers,
that.
yeah. So.
All right.
All right,
We're gonna move into,
I thought you were green.
But it's nice.
we're gonna move into item
Not so green.
5. We'll start with transportation. Mr. Geiger will have it on the board, but you also have a paper and copy of what he's gonna go over in that packet that we gave you earlier, okay? Go ahead, bro.
Okay. We'll go to page 2 for this past school year. What you're gonna get now is information of the type of things that we've done. We had 98 home-to-school runs. We transported 28 homeless and foster students, 33 sister school students, 39 work studies throughout the day for special ed students, 10 late bus runs daily, pretty much. We did 593 athletic trips and practice trips, 164 field trips, and 168 extracurriculum and competition trips throughout the school year last year. We also ran 35 summer school routes last summer. And Sorry, it's a little small, but it's a lot of information. What you're gonna see throughout the next few slides are the budget itself. You're gonna see that the supervisor of student transportation section of our budget is gonna go down by $3,600, a little over $3,600. The vehicle operation portion on page 4 is gonna increase by an $86,100. $109. The reason for that is we've been under budgeting since I've been here. The IU costs, isn't something that we pay out directly with a check, but every year when the IU turns in their state report for state subsidy, what they needed from every district, that comes out of our state subsidy check that we get from the Department of Ed every year. They get, what the IUs do is they tell the state how much money they need to operate for the next school year, their transportation and everything, and then at the end they have to reconcile and they have to report how much each district portion is of that, and then that portion comes out of our state subsidy. So we have to show, we want to try to get this number back to where it should be and show the true number that we're losing to the IU out of our, but not, losing it out of our subsidy but not paying them directly. So it balances out the number is what it's going to do eventually. So we did take money throughout the budget to try to boost that up a little bit. We did take $85,000 out, but generally every year at the end we balance our budget and most of the money goes into there, what's left out of fuels and things like that, if there is anything. Under the transportation budget for the public transportation of it, we were able to reduce some general supplies throughout a little bit in maintenance vehicles for repair of maintenance vehicles and other professional services. Also diesel fuel. Diesel fuel we were able to reduce because we were able to actually contract our budget back around Thanksgiving for next year already. We were able to lock in at a much lower price. Plus we have been buying more gasoline buses versus diesel, which has been bringing down our cost on the diesel and our usage of diesel. But then on the other hand, it's boosting up the gas side of it. We're buying more gasoline. So you will see increase in gasoline, drop in diesel, and that is just shifting the money from the one to pay the bill for the other. But we have already locked in our gasoline also since then, back in January, I think it was, Carl, and we did reduce the cost per gallon on that also. And then on the non-public side,
Sorry,
again,
Mr.
Mr. Geiger, one
I'm
question.
sorry.
That's okay.
I'm not advancing it, am I?
That's all right.
Let's get to the non-public. There we go.
We're staying with
We're
you.
on page
Is that where your
6.
questions or your
I
questions?
forgot.
Yeah, it is.
Paper
No,
copy,
no.
but I do have it numbered
Yep.
for you, sorry. There again, we're reducing gas.
Repairs and
Diesel
maintenance, that's
and
different than
increasing
those.
gasoline and decreasing some.
This is
some,
different.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
general
non-public.
supply.
I'm in public. Okay.
Mr. Geiger,
Mr.
can you go
Geiger?
back one page to public?
Yes.
Right.
There we go. I think there's a
Yes,
question on
I
that.
have a question
page.
there.
Yep.
Yes,
So I see we have a nice reduction in the repair and maintenance on the vehicles.
correct.
Is that also related to newer equipment, having newer
Some is
equipment?
because of the- yeah, it's mostly because of that.
Okay.
Because with keeping the fleet and increasing the age downward,
Yeah.
and lowering the age, we are getting more work done that's under warranty, if
Good.
there is anything, plus the maintenance costs on the newer buses is a lot lower than the 20-year-old
So you
buses.
should take credit for that. That's why I was
Well,
trying to
that's
point out there
not
for you.
my credit, that's the board's credit, looking into the future and putting money into the budget to help do that and lower the age of our fleet.
As soon as they go out a warning, we recommend.
That is not true, they're not able to do. Okay, overall though, my budget is a decrease of 0.338% is my overall budget this time. So
Okay.
we're able to drop the budget by $7,500 by shifting things and reducing things that we did not need. So if you go to page 9, which is this one, This gives you an idea of what we have in the fleet. We currently have 77 buses that are either 72 or 77 passenger. We have 148 passenger. 28 of our buses are 28 to 30 passenger. We have 10 wheelchair buses and 13 vans in the fleet currently. The next page gives you a little bit more of a breakdown of those buses, what they do. We have 96 route vans. We have 18 spare, 1 mail van, 6 sports vans, 1 vehicle dedicated to training, it's also a spare, and we have 1 bus that is totaled on the lot, that was taken out of the fleet, that, as he referred to, we destroyed.
You were
An
kidding.
unfortunate accident. And unfortunately, it was also our fault.
As opposed to a fortunate accident.
Well, there are none of that, they're all unfortunate.
Sometimes, tree falling, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, here we go to the age of our fleet. Current, the black ones with the dot in front represent the year March of 2018 where we were, and then the blue is where we are in March of this year. So we have reduced our age down. We only have 15 vehicles that are in the bracket of 15 to 19. We have 39 that are in the 10 to 14 range. We have 28 vehicles that are that are 5 to 9 years of age, and 44 that are only 4 years or newer. Overall, we have 96% of our fleet is now less than 10 years of age. 59%.
I'd like to know.
Forgive me, I'm here a few hours now today. I've been here since 4:13, since 4:30 this morning. Okay, one thing I don't have in the report is that currently, last week I was at Pasbo and Hershey, and a lot of the directors sat together at a chatting, and a lot of them have contracts with the vendors, and some have. There's fewer anymore, it seems, that have their own fleet, which we are one of the fortunate ones to have our own fleet. But we're talking about ages of the buses, and the consensus is they try to keep their run buses, their daily runners, at 10 years or newer. And they try to keep their spares at 15 years of age or newer. Everyone seems to be disregarding the age nowadays as far as the mileage and sticking with the ages. And that's where we're at, right? And the overall age, when they write the contracts, the districts and stuff are putting in, they try to keep the average age of their fleet at 7 years of age. So if you think about it, we did 4 years of bus replacement since I'm here. And the plan that we put together was 10 to 12 to replace our fleet. We should be really in line, the district, you should be, I won't be here then. You should be in line to have your fleet matched down to pretty close to those goals of having your run buses at 10 and your average age at 7 and your spares in the range of 15, 17 years of age. So, but this was majority of the people there when we talked that night. We talked about this, and everyone pretty much is where we're looking to get to.
And in how many years do you anticipate that to be true?
We were hoping to make it in 10 years.
And this is year 4 of that
We
10-year
did
plan?
4 years now. This year, the delivery was my 4th year of delivery of new vehicles. And going forward, we'll be able to hopefully continue that to get the fleet down to a manageable age. Repairs will be lesser, hopefully, and everything with all that.
Okay.
But as in a new car you can have problems with just like a new bus. You know, there's quirks when they come out too, some of them. But I give credit to Carl and his staff for the work they do on the buses and keeping them rolling. I've been very tough on his staff this year. The last 6 months, we've had to use the mechanics as drivers. Jessica as a driver, myself as a driver, Nancy as our router as a driver, because we have a number of drivers on long-term medical. So and the number of retirees that we have has been dwindling that are willing to come back to drive because of the cost of the licensing and the requirements of the state as far as medical requirements. So it's getting a little tougher to get that. We have a good number of people in training. We're hoping to have enough drivers to put a new driver in every seat of the people that are going to be retiring. We have 6 or 7 drivers retiring this year at the end of the school year. So we will be looking to continue our ad in the penny power, which seems to have been our best way to go, because we cover all 8 zones that they carry, and it's a really reasonable cost. It's like $100 for 1 week to put it in there. And every once in a while they'll offer me a front page ad. That sure caught a lot of eyes of contractors when I had it on the front page of their paper that time.
Mr. Geiger, I just want to take the opportunity while Mr. Duke is here to first recognize him, but also thank him. We often get to see Mrs. Short and Mr. Geiger, and so we often get to thank them. But as Mr. Geiger said, one of the reasons that our fleet is in such good shape is that we have people who care for it, and Mr. Duke is one of those key people. So besides the fact that he does a lot of driving, and that's, and I appreciate that.
He's only been out once this year.
Oh, all right. But just so,
He's been fortunate.
we don't often get to say that to you, Mr. Duke, because you're not here at these meetings, so we just want to thank you for all of that hard work that you're doing and in the department. So we appreciate that as well.
And I'm not really sure, but what is it, 35 years or 36? 36 years he's been with the district in that capacity.
Yeah.
Working up at the tech school and fixing buses down here, and bringing them up there down here to fix them. And
But you can't leave till you get it right. Sorry.
And I will say the staff is really great over there.
For sure.
You're going to have good hands with Jessica taking over in July. And I won't not say anything, but Lori Barnes is here. She's our trip coordinator. So all those field trips and everything go through her to make sure that there's a driver and these kids get there.
Nice.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next 3,
We clap for everybody.
So on page 12, it'll give you a mileage breakdown on number of buses in different categories. We have 44 with less than 50,000 miles, 11 with 50 to 100, 17 100 to 150. We have 27 at 150 to 200, 20 that are 200 to 250, and 3 that are over the 250 mileage. I have to say that when I got here, this category of 3 over that was maybe 3 over 300,000 miles.
Oh.
And we had maybe 20 in the category of 200 to 300,000 miles. So it has been dropping. We no longer have any with 300,000 miles on them. And we no longer have the 24-year-old buses that we had when I got here. So it's been coming down.
I apologize for asking you a question that I didn't warn you of in advance, because I don't let you do that. How many miles do we run a year, roughly? What does the fleet run
We
per
should
year
look
per
into
mile?
that one. It's about 1.6 million.
About 1.6
Wow.
million.
Wow.
If I'm not
Yeah.
How many
just-
trips when was that?
So,
I haven't.
Wow.
this in January.
That's,
I will
that's an
present
awesome
that at
number.
the next meeting when I come back, when we do our request for budget as far as buses. I will have the exact number, what we sent to the state, what the state report showed, but I also had it calculated out, as she said, on how many trips to the moon it is. I had that calculated out for that report.
well, I just love to
But
think
I'll
through
come back
that.
with that.
But I love to think through that fact in terms of the safety that your department provides for our students.
Right.
Over 1.6 million miles,
Yes.
right? You think about what that does, and that just a tribute to our drivers, but also the care that they take. So,
And you have to understand, a lot of our drivers are retirees
very
from
proud.
some other
much in a lifetime.
occupation.
And how many accidents have you
We have
been
a lot of people that are retired from another occupation that come
Yeah.
to be school bus drivers.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that come from other contractors here to Pennridge because of our reputation. So, they like the fact that we are district owned and they want to have a stable job. So, and when they work for contractors, they don't know when the contract coming up, will they have a job next year? So then I have a guesstimate on which buses we're going to replace over the next 3 years on the next 3 pages. But that can all change with what accidents that the insurance company says no more. We're not going to. That one's going to the junkyard, stuff like that. And we're tied, so then we shift something around. But we'll have a more definite when we come back in like June, May, June to the board with our request to go to bid for July for next year. The contractors love us that way because they can turn our buses around a lot faster. We had buses rolling in here for Christmas last year already out of our September bid that we awarded. So that's really a good turnaround, because if you wait until January, February to award your bids, the contractors are saying, well, you're gonna be 6-8 months till you get a bus. So we save money because they give us a better price at that time of year because they're hungry for the work. And you get a better quality bus, we feel, plus a quicker turnaround.
Is this the first year we're not replacing any that are still in the 90s?
Yes,
I think it is.
it is. Last year we replaced, this last round, we replaced bus 76, which was our oldest one. And you notice, I don't have a picture of a real old bus this year in here. Although I got a really cool one sent to me of a wooden double-deck horse-drawn bus.
Oh.
Somebody sent me a picture of that, and it's really cool looking.
Was that a job offer in your retirement?
Yeah, they
We're
were
gonna go pull that, right,
When
right.
you get the buses on Christmas, is it like the commercials, do they have a big bow?
No, they don't. Carl don't put bows on them for us. He just packs them in the corner and says, don't touch them.
So, Mr. Dahlberg, I have the same question that I have when we see this type of plan thing. This replacement plan is budgeted for and was planned for by the district.
Yes.
All right, I just want to take an opportunity to thank both the board as well as the department in terms of that planning. It is, I've said this a couple times, that one of the things I looked at when considering jobs are the financials of the district. And the fact that the many boards who have fed into this replacement plan and both in terms of facilities and transportation, I just you owe a lot of credit in terms of the financial health of the district and the state we're in to be able to have that kind of report. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any questions? If not, I'm going home to bed.
You ought to just sleep here. Come on, you gotta get up in a couple hours.
Like 4:30.
Poor Sean. I talk about it.
Well, I will change clothes. I haven't changed here.
Thanks for coming out, Transportation Department.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
We don't like to
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
whether the text will
So,
talk.
all right, Mr. Harper.
Oh, I was thinking we were done. Forgot, we still have more.
No, there's 3 more reports. Maybe 4.
Yep.
Well, it is.
It's not real easy to see if I could zoom in, or if you look at the bottom of the toilet partitions, they're swollen, they're particle board, they're coming apart. I actually had the Department of Health out this week, and this is one of the bathrooms that they said we need to address as soon as possible. If you look at that sink between the backsplash and the top, the white line, that's actually caulk about 3/4 of an inch thick. That's a little beyond repairs at this point. It's a total redo, and it's Formica. As soon as you get water under that, it swells up and it's no good. Some exterior painting projects that we have. This is a fuel oil tank that's outside. There's several schools that have above ground tanks, and obviously it's considerably rusty, it needs to be protected. So we're gonna have some of those tanks painted. The exterior, this is a gym wall. This one's at Bedminster. There's off. Actually, it looks worse in person than it does in the picture. This is the auditorium at South Middle School. And again, this is probably one of the oldest facilities we have. Their theatrical lighting control systems hanging on by a thread.
They really.
And I think this has been on their non-routine budget request for several years. It is somewhat pricey, but I found a way to do it in phases. If we do the main controller, which is pictured at the bottom left, and then some of the lighting that are in there, we could do it in phases, so it's not, if we did everything at once, we're probably talking $250,000. And this isn't something they use every day, but it's something that to have parity between the the middle schools. The other schools have way better systems than they do. Just trying to catch them up so they have a parity amongst middle schools. This is South Middle School as well. These are the wooden bleachers in the gym. And they had a request to motorize these for the extend and retract. Right now, people are pulling these out. It's an accident waiting to happen. They're really hard to pull out, and they get serviced every year, lubricated, but it's manually. You're bending over like this. It makes my back hurt to think about it. So they pull them out on a regular basis. I'm not sure that it's daily, but it's definitely weekly. And to add that motorized function is just good practice to save someone's back.
The other ones, the other middle schools have motorized ones.
Just about every other one has motorized. These are the wooden ones, and it's one of those, that's how they've done it for years. So they've continued doing that until we can afford to do an upgrade. They don't need a replacement. The wooden bleachers are in good shape. If they weren't, we'd look at doing a total redo, and I did compare costs. It's almost double to do all new bleachers as compared to adding this motorized extension retraction. In this slide, blackboards, I believe in the past we've tried to convert blackboards to whiteboards just because that's more modern, more colors, more flexibility, less dust, and we actually have skins that we're using. There's different versions of doing this. Here we've put custom-sized whiteboards over top of blackboards. We've done metallic skins that are glued right to the blackboard. And there's a new version, it's kind of like a thick wallpaper that you can spread out on it. We just did a test pilot a week or so ago at South, and they're pretty happy with the product. We did it in-house, so we bought the product and we had our guys install it. They were real happy with it. Some blackboards are appropriate, like for art, for chalk drawing and things, but this is for mainly classrooms and such, where whiteboards are the way to go today. Some of the other things are some interior painting. On the far right, those are heating baseboard covers. They've been cleaned so much that the paint's starting to come off. And the lockers don't really do it justice from the pictures, but they're getting banged up and starting to rust. So we're proposing painting of several lockers. This is at South and at Central Middle Schools. Next one is interior painting, just regular drywall and block. These are typical. I think the one on the top left must have been a previous roof leak. The one in the middle, teachers like to hang things with tape and staples, and you end up pulling paint off. It just becomes unsightly, and we don't want to have that kind of standard in classrooms. Same with the picture on the right. We need to provide some other things like you see in here. There's tack strips where you can hang things appropriately. It's probably a good solution to work towards in the future. giving them tax strips that they can hang things where they need them rather than causing this repetitive damage year after year.
Just occurred to me.
And I think that was the last slide on non-routine requests. Any questions on non-routine?
With the auditorium upgrade at South, why wasn't that put on the capital projects? It seems like something that could be a capital project.
Good question. It's probably because it's something I think we could handle in-house.
Okay.
It's why pay for the construction management and develop those specifications. It is a strand lighting system, and that's common maybe throughout the entire district for theatrical lighting. So I think it's something in-house that I can piecemeal and get done through this budget process. Good, ready to move on, everyone's tired? Okay. So this is the.
That was his goal. Let me be last. Nobody have any questions?
I can nail it, right. So this is the regular operations budget. It's the 2600 function and object codes. And I broke it down into its individual sections, and I omitted blank lines and zeros and those kind of things to condense it, make it easier to read. So the way I have it laid out, you have the 2600 function, the object code, a description, the 1718 actual that was expensed, the budget for 1819, this year's requested budget, and then the variance between those last two. I'm gonna explain the variance between the last two unless you have other questions.
Go for it.
So in the first one that is a plus variance, 13,270, that's our property and liability insurance. The actual quote came in 13,270, higher than last year. So we're budgeting for actual expenses that need to be paid. The next line item, transport and telecommunications, is a decrease of $10,000. If you look at the actual was $70,000, I'm just trying to creep closer towards actual budget cost. Being relatively new, I don't know everything that comes out of these, so I don't wanna take it down 20,000. I just wanna get closer to the actual budget next year. If we're still consistently that low, we could dial it down a little bit further.
So you think it will be 10,000 more than?
It's possible, I'm just not familiar with what exactly comes out of there. I know their phone, probably internet, those kind of charges come out of this account. I need to find out what they really are. Are we getting the services we need? Are we getting too much? I need to get a better handle on it, being a short timer. I think it's fair to reduce it by 20 or 10,000 now, just because the 1718 actual was 70,200 basically. I think that's a fair reduction at this point. So we have in variance plus $10,000 on the technology supplies and fees. If you look at the actual, that was almost $10,000, and the prior budget was $5,000, so there was already a discrepancy there. And something, this is actual an ad from me request. So part of this cost is School Dude, if you've heard of that. It's our maintenance work order, preventive maintenance system, facility scheduling that we use throughout the district. There was an extra module that I used in my previous district that helped save time and optimize things. It's something called FS automation. It's something that links our facility scheduling program with our HVAC systems. So on a regular basis, for example, the facility manager here in the high school, he has to look at all the approved events in this building, and on a weekly basis, maybe even daily basis, he has to see what was in, what's approved, go into the HVAC system and schedule on different rooms.
Oh my gosh.
So that's time consuming. I asked, how long does that take you in a week? Sometimes it takes up to 10 hours of his time
Oh my gosh.
because you need to check it. Someone could put a request in today for something tomorrow and to make sure that you're having heating or cooling when you need it. Right now, I don't know if we'd really notice if this wasn't on or not, but when it's really hot, really cold out, you know, especially if you have a big event, if someone misses a schedule, it's a problem. The gym's too hot, the auditorium's too cold, whatever it might be, this looks bad for the public.
Yeah.
The system, once it's fully configured, will automate that whole process, save time for the facility manager, and make sure things are scheduled on. There's a higher initial startup cost, it's this year. I'll probably be able to reduce this by a few $1,000s. There's a one-time setup fee, and there's a recurring cost every year. So this will likely be able to be reduced next year.
Nice.
Ready for the next
I
slide?
have one question.
Question.
Did we get any explanation from the insurance carrier what drove the increase?
Well, the numbers we have budgeted now throughout for insurance are their first budget for the year that they give us.
Okay,
They'll come back to us in May with revised numbers. And then the final numbers will they'll come back to us in
Okay.
May and June with the final number.
Okay.
But they always come in with their first budget numbers conservatively.
okay.
And then the last few years, it's bent down a little bit, not tremendously, but went down a little bit. So we budget the budgeted numbers they give us. They usually come in January, and then we give those numbers to all the department heads to put in their budgets, so.
Okay, because, like I said, just looking at it on the surface, over the past 2 years, it's $25,000 increase, give or take, And I wasn't sure if there was something driving it, did we have claims or,
Not in the general property and
Yeah.
liability, we
Okay.
didn't really have claims. It goes up every year because our values go up.
Okay, yeah, that's why it's, okay.
Okay, next. So this slide represents utility usage district-wide. So the three main components of that are natural gas, electricity, and fuel oil. And it's hard to see, but the left side is 2009, and the right side is 2018. So natural gas is driven by weather. If it's colder outside, you're gonna have higher expenditures. Fuel oil is the same. Fuel oil is a little bit different. We have some buildings that are exclusively on fuel oil, but we have others that are on dual fuel. When we get to a certain temperature outside, extremely cold, I think it's around 19 degrees, we're required to go on to fuel oil only when we're at that temperature. So that could explain some of those spikes that you see in those graphs. Yes?
Or you finished talking?
No, go ahead.
So the electric one, I guess we've leveled off we did that whole renovation of the different systems. Is this it now? We're not gonna be experiencing anymore?
So, good question. So 2009 was the year that